Some of the most frightening stories are not what people hear or find out about. They don't discover them in abandoned buildings, old cemeteries, dark forests. They're about moments in time, glimpses that they see. A friend of a friend heard something, a story passed down from generations to generations, folklore, if you will. A sound outside of a bedroom doesn't belong there, or a sharp banging noise as you hear as you're walking through the woods. Your mind tries to rationalize it, right? Until one day, it doesn't. You see something that you're not supposed to see, and your mind can't, possibly make this make sense. However, for some people, this happens. And tonight, we actually have a very special guest on the show tonight, Taylor Thompson, star of MonsterQuest Season 5, Episode 5, The Great Mistakes, is on the EnigmaCast. That's right, y'all. Look, that's right, y'all. I tell you, it's been a while since I had a guest on right here, and I was 2 o'clock in the morning. I couldn't sleep. I came across this feed, and it was this magnificent hottie sitting right here telling a story about something that happened. And I shot my shot, boys. I shot my shot. I reached out and I got her. So Taylor, thank you so much for coming on my show. Thank you. This is a big win for me. Thank you. Thank you.
Too kind. Right? Of course. Thank you for having me. Oh my gosh.
No, it's great. Like I said, your Instagram scared me. It was 2 o'clock in the morning, and I was like, all right. And then I was flicking, and then how she broke it down, Enigmites, is that she did it like a 3-part. So there's part 1, part 2, and I'm like, all right, so I hit her with the text or hit her with the DM or whatever, and she reached out. So Taylor, I can't tell you, man, I'm super excited to have you on her. So please tell everybody a little bit about yourself, please.
Well, thank you so much for having me. My name's Taylor Thompson. I am now in Phoenix, Arizona. The incident that occurred that you saw on Instagram was featured on MonsterQuest. It actually occurred though in Wrightwood, California. Okay. So in the high desert, Southern California. Yeah. It's a pretty big part of the story, but yeah, I was on MonsterQuest after I had been on like 2 podcasts. A podcast of somebody you've actually, pretty well. That's right. And then another podcast, a friend of yours. Yeah. And that friend of yours, should we say his name?
Yeah. Good job, Dano. Gatekeeping the good guests, man. All right. We'll have words down the street, Dano from the Cryptid podcast.
Dano,
Dano's a good guy. He's a good guy. He's a good guy. Yeah.
He's a good guy. And I reached out. I used to listen. I actually listened to your podcast for quite a while too. I explained to him too, but like I would listen, of course. Absolutely. No, you did great job. But I would be at work and I had a mindless job. So I would listen in my earbuds and just kind of listen. And because I had my encounter, I had one podcast interview long before, and it was just kind of like, what happened? And then what do you think it was? And then that was kind of it. So I just like devoured a lot of media about cryptid encounters and UAP stuff. And your show was one of them. But I also went on to, Dano's show. And I DM'd him randomly. I was just like, oh, I love your show. I had an encounter. If you ever want to talk about it. That was it. And he's like, yeah. And so then we did that show. We talked about it. And then eventually he reached out again. And he was like, hey, I just want to let you know. I don't know if you've heard of the show. I don't even know if it was MonsterQuest yet. But a show that was going to be signed with History Channel had reached out. And they wanted to talk to me, I guess. Yeah. About my encounter. And I was kind of floored. I was like, that's... He already had like 55 interviews, and that was crazy that they wanted to talk to me.
This just got real. This just got real fast. Yeah. All right. Excellent.
Super real. And then they interviewed me and they asked me repetitively. I think they wanted to see if I was like full of it or not, which they can tell pretty quickly. The story never changes. So it's just what happened. But they were like, oh, okay, we want you on the show. And then the next thing I know, they flew me to Seattle. And then we recorded the story, and then I guess they had actors that like played me and stuff. It was so weird. It was a mind-blowing thing. But yeah, it was about, do you want to go into the encounter site, I guess? Yeah,
so real quick, let's, before we get going, hey, you know how we do on here, guys, put your kids to bed, pull your ladies close, and guys, if you're in the chat, you don't have a lady, well, hang out with me, I'll get you a lady, but no sendbacks. All right, so here we go. So Taylor, turn down the lights. Yeah. I'm prepared. I'm properly prepared to be spooked, right? So I've heard your story was good. Again, like I was telling Taylor, and as you guys watch my show, when I bring a guest on, they have a good story. I don't go and pre-research their story. I like to go into it just like kind of wide open, right? So Taylor, please take us down memory lane. Let's do it.
Okay, so I'm going to have to go back in time before the event to kind of give you the full synopsis of what happened. So I was not Christian. I know that's like a weird way to start off the story, but I was born and raised Buddhist. But when I was a little girl, like in first grade on September 11th era, we had that Christmas, we got a knock on the door, and I opened the door, and there was a piece of the manger, like the Christmas manger, and like a note underneath where it was like a poem, and it was ding dong ditched, and they ran off, and they said they would come every single night until Christmas Eve, and on Christmas Eve they would leave the baby Jesus. And every night leading up to that, it would be a new piece of the manger with a poem, but they would never introduce themselves until Christmas Eve. If anyone knows anything about that time frame, we were all freaked out. So my dad was not happy at all. We didn't know who these people were. We thought we were like going to be attacked. Like he was freaking out. Mm-hmm. So eventually on Christmas Eve, it's found out that it's my piano teacher. She thought it was like they did it, I guess, with their church. And my mom loved it. She wanted to do it moving forward, but the huge caveat was we were always going to tell the parents, because my dad was like, I almost shot them. Like, that was crazy, right? Right? Yeah, so we made it a tradition moving forward. Just kind of as a good Samaritan thing, every year we would choose like a new family to do this to. So my mom would make copies of the poem. It was very specific. We'd have to go find a specific manger set. It was like it was like a whole thing. Well, then we moved up to Wrightwood, California now. So we've been doing this now for ever 7-8 years. I'm very well familiar with it. And now I live in the middle of nowhere, like on a dirt road. Mm-hmm. We had like bus stop kid friends that we'd always walk to school together every day. And like it was winter break and we were really bored. And it came around time to do it again. And my mom's like, who wants to do it with us this year? And people's parents were like, please take our kids. Like, yeah, go do this at night. Like, stay the night at Taylor's house or whatever the case may be. So that's what we were doing. So that night, we had picked this kid preemptively. So I chose the kid this year. This kid was like a foster kid. He lived at the end of my road, which was a narrow dirt road. And his foster mom was just somebody who owned the property. And the property, I'll get into a little bit later. It was really unique property, but that's where this kid lived. And so every night we'd go to this kid's house and we'd do this thing. Now, mind you, this kid rode the bus with us. So he, like, leading up to Christmas break, I believe, if I remember correctly, at some point he made a comment to us on the bus that there were people coming to his house dropping stuff off, and he wanted to figure out.
Right.
Like, he would try to chase us. Like, he was really fast. He was like 10. We were like 14 or 15. We were not as like fast as him anymore. Mm-hmm. And it turned into a big game this year. Like, this was turning into drama. So we went up. So it was me, and I will never name the kids because they've never said they wanted to be named. I've asked, even when the History Channel reached out, they read my messages, and they just like, that was it. So it was myself, my mom, who's on the show. She's not interviewed, but she's on it. And then, hold on, I gotta count. 6 people. Mm-hmm. So myself, my mom, and then 4 other kids. One was a boy, and the other 3 were girls. One of the girls was my niece, and she was raised with me. Mind you, we are all mountain kids. So we all know the mountains. We know bears, we know mountain lions, we know all those things. We know what sounds sound like. We have horses. I'm a Girl Scout. Like, I got a lot of comments on Instagram about that, and it was so annoying. I was like, girl, don't come at us with that. We knew what we were doing out there, you know? So mind you, too, given that it was winter, the moon was totally full and out, and it was very close to you could see everything that night. It was crazy. Right. And these kids, a lot of them, like the boy and his sister, they had done this multiple times with us as well. So they're very familiar. And also the boy, I was the oldest, but he was like a black or brown belt in karate. Like, he was kind of like, oh, like all the time. And I mean, he was courageous. I mean, I've never seen him like this. So he had come the most times with us, me and my niece. So my mom, we'd gone up, we had the donkey that night, and we had the poem. And the kid had tried to chase us so many times, and he was so fast, and we almost got caught. Now, mind you, the foster mom knew, so she tried to be like, stay inside, and be like, no, and then he would just take off and like come after us. So because of that, and because it was the mountains and you could hear everything, you could hear cars coming from like a mile away. When you went up this mountain road, it went up to the top of this mountain, and it would narrow, and we had a Jeep with like 2 doors, soft top convertible. and she would have to flip around before the next turnout because the lights would shine down there and he would know it was us because there's no one else coming back there. It's at the end of the road. There's literally a private property sign with road stops. It's weird. It's creepy. So with that being said, she would turn around before the mountain and make sure that she was ready to just put it in drive and go because this kid was like on us so quickly. So we get out, and mind you, we still have like about a quarter of a mile to walk to this kid's house, which is where I'll get to the property. So the property, she owned it, and she rented out little cabins to these like other people that lived at the base of this hill. And you would have to walk all the way down this path to get to these cabins and like access her property essentially. And that's what we were going to walk down that night. So we're at the very top. So we get out of the Jeep, and mind you, there was so many kids in this car that we weren't all seatbelted in. It was like the early 2000s, guys, right? And like, we got out of the car, and I remember immediately getting out of the car and feeling weird because it was incredibly warm. It was like December, and it felt like spring. Like, I almost took my hoodie off because I knew I was going to run and I was going to probably get hot. I thought about it. So I get out, the moon is so big and so white. There was no questioning anything you saw at all. And we get out, my mom's like, all right, good luck. And she liked to read a book because it would take like, we were a quarter mile. It'd still take like 20 minutes. So she'd always read a book and she'd have a little reading light on and she'd just read and wait for us. Well, we get out, we make the corner, and there's this like mountain that comes down that we had to turn around. And because it was such a narrow road, we were all shoulder to shoulder. And that was the full road. We took up the road. And I was on the far right, and all of them were on my left. And the boy was right next to me, and then the rest of them. And I just remember him the most. That's why I always think about him, just because he was his face. But we turned the corner, and we were whispering about, the boy was the fastest out of all of us. So we were going to trick the kid that night, where one of us was going to go up to the side and the other one was going to like wait. And then like he was going to try to like get them to notice that sound and go out the side door. And then we were going to run up and like pop it at the front door and then dip out. He was the distraction. We were discussing that, I believe, if I remember correctly. And we were whispering because sound travels. And I think I was talking. And this always gets me freaked out. But out of nowhere, I felt like an incredible sense of dread, like wash over me, like hit me like a brick, actually, really. It felt like I walked into a wall of horror, of true horror. And I stopped because it felt like a predator. Right. And we didn't say anything. That was what was also really crazy about this, was no one said any words to each other. And I stopped, and I'm looking, and I hear something coming up the mountain at us. So the road went straight and it made it left, and there was another mountain that came down, so you couldn't see what went to the left. That mountain was blocking that view, so all you saw was just like a cliff thing. It was a road. It just looked like it fell right off. You know it turns, but you can't really see it. So I'm looking at that and I'm thinking something's coming up that. And at first I remember my instinct was a mountain lion, because that's the only thing that could probably climb that fast. And then, but it's moving so fast, I see a hand, arm, shoulder fly up and over directly at us. That was the first thing I saw. And I was like, what? And then another came up, and I looked to my left because this thing was on its hands and its feet. So its back was super arched. And so you only saw its like neck and shoulder blades at first, and its arms. And it was, the moonlight was reflecting off of its skin, so you could literally see all of it. And its shoulder blades were like jaggedly twitching, moving. It was like disturbingly upsetting. It was like World War Z. Wow. That's how I described it. When I saw that trailer for the first time, I was like, oh my gosh, it moved like that. It literally moved like, it was so fast. And as I look at all of them and I see the boy, and his face, he was just like everyone was, they all were. And I looked back, and as I looked back now, it is full blown, like you could see its waist. And that's when I realized it was on its hands and its feet when I looked back, because it was taking its last step up and it was standing at the same time. So it like took its hand, which its hand didn't go like sideways parallel to its knees, your knees, like when you walk like a person, which was also really, really creepy to see something move with its palm back. It wasn't parallel, it was like that. And it was crawling, and the second it hit the second step to where it could like stand up, I was like, oh my gosh, it's on its hands and feet. Like,
wow.
And then it just stood up, like, off the edge of this cliff, like nothing. And then it took a step with its foot. And when it took a step, its hand moved once again. Like I said, that's when I noticed it moving like this. And its hands hung beyond its knees. It was so tall. It was like 8.5 foot tall. It was all black. I mean, blacker than black in night. I mean, never even seen the universe. Like, it looked like the universe, really. And you could see, though, that it was a figure. Like, it wasn't a ghost. It wasn't transparent. It had skin and it had muscle. And you could see, like, definition in its arms. And you could see definition in its ribs. And, like, it had an attitude. Like, I've never confirmed with these kids because we never talked about it again. And it gets me really every time, I swear. I knew it wanted to kill us. I could tell. And when it took a step, it kind of like cocked its head a little bit like, ha, like you're screwed. Basically, it was kind of the feeling I got from it. Mm-hmm. And when it took that step, because it was like a telepathic thing, but it felt almost like that. Like where it was like instinct, predator prey. Instinct, I'm not sure.
Yeah, so now like I've talked to people before, man. I refer to what you just described as a non-verbal form of communication, where like it's just in you, like they just put that in you, right? Like it's hard to describe, like, but you lived it, right? So
it's so hard to describe.
It's just in you, right?
It's so I knew it, like, and it wasn't like an instinct thing, because I've been in circumstances where later on in my life I've been in danger, like hiking or camping with people and animals. It's not like that. I just knew it. And then it took its first step. And then after that, I was like, nope. And I turned to my left. As I turned to run, I ran out of there.
Not doing this.
Nope, I'm out. They turned and followed. So the boy turned next, and then the rest of them started running.
Sure.
And then what was really cool about the boy was, like, I remember this, was like, we were all really close. Mm-hmm. We were raised together, basically. It gets me really emotional. We were never, after this, it was never the same. It was a bummer. And the one thing that I know he did say was he confirmed it later on, years later, and that he saw it, and it was the scariest thing he'd ever experienced. And because we didn't know what it was. And that's what he said was so scary about it, was he couldn't tell himself that it was a mountain lion. He couldn't tell himself it was a bear. And I think he knew deep down it also wanted to kill us. And that was what was, I think, as like a young man, to see something that you wouldn't know how to protect these girls from that. You have no idea what to do. That helplessness, I think, is why, like, we never talked about it again. And I think it messed him up a lot more than I think it maybe messed us up because of that reason. But he turned, we ran, and I remember he fell back a little bit to make sure that they got ahead, the girls got ahead, and me too. Mm-hmm. And they came ahead of us. And mind you, I was, like I said, the oldest, so I wanted to make sure they got in first. And I got up to the door and I flung the door open. And I skipped something. I'm sorry. I'll take it back a little bit. When I was running up, my mom was still reading, of course, the book, but we had just turned out. Like, mind you, we had just gotten out of the car, and then we were coming back pretty fast. So she wasn't expecting that. And she told me later, though, like, I didn't know this until way later, but she said that she felt my terror immediately. Wow. Maybe that was what you're talking about, too. Maybe it was both that. I don't know. But I remember thinking, please look up, because I could feel it coming on us. I mean, I never looked back to see it chasing us, but I felt it chasing us. I knew it was running, and I could feel it almost like it was, like, right there. It felt so close to me, and I don't know how we didn't die. I really don't. We weren't super far. Like, I went back recently, and it was, like, we were probably 20 feet from my mom. It felt way longer because I was really scared.
Right. Yeah.
But she saw me in the rearview mirror. We locked eyes, and she immediately turned it on. And I flew the door open, and the door swung back and like kind of swung into my legs, and I pulled the seat up, and then that's when I started screaming. And I remember when the screams started to come out, it was like, it like gurgled out of me. I was like, go, go! Like, I was so scared. And the girls just dove into the back seat. They just started jumping, and no one was like trying to get a seat or anything. Wow. And then once the last of the 3 girls jumped in, I jumped in on top of them. And as I jumped in, I skidded my shin on with the old Jeeps, they have like the door clasp thing. Yeah. And I jumped and I just hit right. And I was like, oh my gosh. And it like scraped off a bunch of skin, and I'm like dripping blood already. And I didn't even care. I pulled the seat down, and the seat kind of even landed on it. And I was like, oh my God. The boy jumped in the front seat. Mm-hmm. And before the door even was shutting, he was screaming at my mom, which they knew each other. My mom babysat them for years. Mm-hmm. So like she was kind of second mom. And he was screaming, drive, drive. We were all screaming, drive, by the time the door was swinging shut. And she just floored it. It was a stick. And she went down the mountain. And I could still feel it chasing the car, but I wouldn't even look back because I was so afraid I could not do it. And I was also in a lot of pain at this point. Like, I was starting to hit me. So we pulled down the mountain a little bit. And, like, we went probably 1/8 of a mile, I'd say. And she pulled off to the side of the road. And she doesn't know what's going on. We're not saying what we saw. And she gets kind of frustrated because we're just screaming hysterically. I mean, I would be too. Yeah. There was like a lot of screaming in a small car. And we're screaming for her to keep driving. And she's like, why? And I'm like, Mom, there's something coming for us. You need to keep driving now. And she was like, what is it? And I was like, finally, it just escalated to the point where I was like, we saw a demon thing. We saw a demon thing. I don't know how else to explain it, but it was a demon thing. That's what she said, I said. I don't fully remember. I remember pulling off and begging her to keep going. And I do remember, though, that later on when we got to the house, because then my mom drove off, that freaked her out enough to be like, okay, I guess. And like, we kept going, and I was, because it's still chasing us. That's why I just knew it was. By the time we got to my house, which was about 1.5 miles from where this occurred, my dad normally woke up pretty early, but we were so hysterical that it woke him up. Mm-hmm. And my dad was an incredibly rational person. Literally the smartest person I've ever met in my life, hands down. And read books every day. I mean, constant. And my mom at this point now is starting to like get annoyed with us, and because we will not stop. And she wants us to go back to this house and drop this donkey off. And I'm like, no.
No, Christmas is over.
And it's done. It's ruined. Yeah. And I felt really bad because I was like a really good kid. My dad said I was such a good kid that it was kind of weird, and he was worried there was something, quote, wrong with me. Like, that's how good of a kid I minded and behaved. If they said do something, I did it. I didn't question it. But this was the one time that I was vehemently like, no. I said no. I will not. You ground me. Take away everything. Take all the guitars that I have. I do not care. Mm-hmm. I will not do it. You can ground me till I'm 18. It's fine. And to see my dad, I never got the chance because he passed away, unfortunately, but I never got the chance to ask him what he thought about that too much, because it was so disturbing and weird. And people would have just judged us at the time. I feel like no one would have believed us, and then it just would have made us look crazy. And I was in music at the time up there, and everyone knew me, and I didn't want that to be a thing. I was even worried about it when I started talking about it now. But we didn't talk about it. I was always curious because it looked like there was this recognition on his face when he saw our terror. My mom was like, you're going back out there. I was like, no. And then she got really upset and was like, it was a bear with mange. That's when she started coming up with excuses of what it was. It was a coyote. And I was like, Mom, I've seen coyotes before. No. So then my dad's trying to like talk her out of like, he's like, if that's what they're saying they saw, I don't want to send them out there. But then she was like, no, we're going to confirm. This is crazy. And she called the foster mom. And she was like, I remember this so vividly. We're all sitting in the living room, and I think my dad took some of the girls home because they were really upset. They didn't even want to stay the night at all anymore. And I think he might have at this point. I don't remember, but she called the mom, and they were on speakerphone, and my mom's holding the phone in the kitchen, and she's like, they're saying they saw this thing out there, and it was like, I guess 8.5 feet tall. And I guess what I just want to know from you is, are you sending are your tenants crazy? Are they like people that just like terrorize children? Like accusing anybody who lived down there in those little tiny homes of like terrorizing us? I think that weirdly made more sense than what we were explaining. And I was like, Mom, she was like, they must have been on stilts. I was like, this thing climbed up the side of a mountain at a pace that I've never seen a cheetah climb. I was a zoology major once I went to college, essentially, and like I've never seen any animal move at a speed like that. And I've studied a lot of them. I worked in a zoo. Just saying, like I just, and it stood up as a human being on its feet. Like, I don't know. It was the girl on the speakerphone was like, no. Like, my mom was just flustered, just so upset. And then I was like, Mom, just hang up the phone. And then the woman did eventually say, well, are you going to come back? Are you guys going to, because he's waiting and he's got to go to bed. And I was like, no, I'm not. And she was like, well, that's kind of a shame. But she never asked too much about it, which I thought was really interesting. Like, if I had gotten a call about on my property that there was like an 8.5 foot tall all black figure with red
for sure.
What are you doing? Like, I don't. And then also the fact that land, there's like that weird like trespassers will be shot. It's right near Devil's Punch Bowl area, and it's right near Edwards Air Force Base area. There's a cave back in through there that's kind of closed off on Wrightwood side. It's weird. And I thought that whole thing was weird that she was just like, okay.
Yeah, no. So that's like, again, that's insane. That's a crazy story right there. That's wild.
That's the story. Sorry, that was the whole thing.
No. So that's just like, I got to catch my breath. I feel like I'm on that road with you, like, we're getting after it, right? So looking back on it now, through your, experience that you gained in your life, what do you think it was? Or, if you had to, pinpoint it.
I literally wish I could know so much. I mean, it's haunted me my whole life to where I've been so desperately curious what it is, but I would never want to see it again to try to like figure it out. But after I saw some shows, like, I mean, shout out to Zach Bagans over at Ghost Adventures. I mean, I hate to say it, but there was an episode where it was the I hate to even use the word SW episode recently. And they were, I think, in Utah, and there was like a scene that they were doing a reenactment, and they were claiming they were SWs, and I saw the reenactment, and it was very, very, very similar to that. And except for mine had red eyes, and this one had gold, but still, I mean, the body, the way that it looked, I was like, wow, that's crazy. Even more so, to be honest, than the show I was on. Like, the show that I was on, I love them to death. Don't get me wrong. But when the recreation of what I saw, it was way scarier.
Was it way scarier
than what they created? Oh,
yeah. So do you mind if I tell about what SW is?
Please do.
It's a social worker. There was a social. No, it's a skinwalker. It's a skinwalker. A social worker was chasing them down the street. No, it was a skinwalker on that. So so I haven't seen your episode yet. It's on. I'm gonna definitely watch it tonight with my AR-15 across my lap. But look, so the man, that event right there, that had to like that's had to like leave. I mean, like a scar somewhere. Like other than your knee, man, you've had to like carry some type of that's insane right there. Especially if it was a skinwalker that you went down there to look into. And those are the ones. So I got this thing, right? Like, it's just how most guys are. If it can bleed, you know what? I can take it down, right? But I've never heard of anybody, like, I've heard the Joe Barger story, how he dropped a dog man up in the Manistee National Forest. There's, there's a story where Daniel Boone shot a Bigfoot. It's like, I could deal with that. I've never heard anybody 1v1 a skinwalker, man, and dropping it, right? Like, I don't know how you take those guys out, right? So that bothers me. And also, too, you brought up World War Z. My buddies will laugh, man. Like, that's my fast zombies are my Achilles heel. I don't like zombies that can run. Like a slow zombie? Ah, bro, like I'm building a colony. We're good, man. We're gonna have a pool. Slow zombie, fast zombies. Oh man, that's another level of terror right there, right?
They're
So you,
so scary. Yeah,
yeah,
it is. Yeah, it did scar me. I think I
yeah,
really do. I mean, beyond the knee or the shin rather, but
mm,
yeah, I think the it's starting to hit me more now as an adult.
yeah,
Whereas like when I was young, it was kind of like that was crazy, and then we moved on. I do when I processed it, I feel like though, oh my gosh, when I processed it all though, it was kind of one of those things where um I was afraid later in my life as a
mm,
teenager on that property because we had horses and it felt like a predator. And my dad, he started to, I think, notice it. And that's why I'm so curious if he ever did really. But like, I would like struggle going outside at night to feed the horses. We were so close to that. Like, we were in the middle of nowhere. Like, if you look up, we were right at the base of Wrightwood, California, right where it turns from desert to forest. It's the weirdest thing. You'll be
right,
driving up on the 2 highway, and people that know that area know, and people that don't, when they come with me and they see it for the first time, like my best friend had never been up there, and I explained it, and I was like, it's really strange, it's really odd. There's a vibe up there. The Mormon rocks are up there. They thought it was holy. There's like a total energy in through that whole vibe
yeah,
area. And Vegas is on the way, or you go to Vegas. You
mm,
get off the freeway and you're going up the highway, and it's Joshua trees, and then all of a sudden, bang, it's just forest. And that's where I lived. We lived at the base of that mountain, and we lived off of a road called Desert Front. It's fine, like people can see it. Don't annoy the people that live there because they'll have
shoot you.
issues with that. Desert Front though is at the base of this salt mine that's massive. That's why I say it. It's like a massive pyramid.
Mhm.
It's super weird. And it was where my house sat. So my house, you'd turn around and there was this the whole side of the mountain was concaved out. And then eventually they stopped digging there. They never really explained. My dad thought it was because they ran out of salt to mine.
Yeah, no.
Quartz and salt, I don't know. Very strange. So I think there's so much going on in those mountains that are really scary, and it freaked me out living there.
So yeah, so like trust your gut, trust your instinct. I've talked about this before, man. I've done enough of these interviews and side researches that there's the geographical nature of things. There's always things that are in common. Normally, there's a mountain, caves, military base not far by,
Yeah.
thick foliage, thick foliage and stuff like that. Also, too, it's becoming more and more acceptable now, like the term ley lines that people talk about, these energy lines that go through. Back in the day, people would look at you like, what are you talking about? Like these ley lines, right? And they're definitely a thing that's going on, right? So yeah, and again, the fact that you thought it was a skinwalker that was coming up the mountain as well just describes I have a friend of mine. Well, we haven't talked in a while, but I met him through the show. He's actually a 100% Navajo. He's out in Las Vegas, right? And but he doesn't live on the res, right? And he would tell these stories that, about how they're brought up, and when you live on the res, you're so spread apart, right? How terrifying it would be out there as a, because just remoteness, right? Just like out in the middle of nowhere, right? And when he was talking about these stories about how the reservation cops, they respond to skinwalker calls, like they respond to it, like they'll drive there, like, so this is like a real thing, right?
Thing. And to reaffirm too, I forgot to mention this. This is what's crazier about this.
Yeah.
I went on my first podcast, and they cover this on the History Channel show too, which is just baffling. It's so crazy. It validated me and blew my mind. It got me emotional. I like cried all night. It was crazy. So I went on my very first podcast a long time ago. I don't even remember, honestly, unfortunately, the name, or else I'd love to shout them out. But they were super sweet. It was a long time ago, 2021. And I was nervous. I'd never been on a show like that in my life, right? So, and I had never talked about it. And I went on Facebook, and I have some people that are from Wrightwood. I moved away when I was like 17, and I never came back. So like sometimes people will see me when I go up and visit, but like I've been MIA for a while, but still have some followers from there. So I post, I'm about ready to be on a I'm about ready to be on a podcast about an encounter that I experienced when I was young. I did not list the location. And I said, I'm a little bit nervous and I'll post it up type of deal. I was literally bombarded by people from Wrightwood going, oh, so you saw the thing with the glowing eyes, blah, blah, blah. My first boyfriend I ever had was like, really glad that you're putting Wrightwood on the map for the thing with the glowing eyes, because I've seen it, like stuff like that. Then I had people I had people in high school and middle school calling me that I had not heard from in 10, 15 years that were like, hey, so don't tell me what you saw real quick. Like, just hold on. This is what one of our friends saw like 3 years ago. Let me explain how it moved, what it looked like, how tall it was, the red eyes. And people were explaining their encounters to me before I was even saying anything, before any of these shows came out. And I was like,
wow,
that's insane. And then what's even crazier is that one girl that was like, did it move like this? And I was like, yeah, like that's what I saw. That's what we saw. That was in like 2020 that they claimed to have seen that thing again on another dirt road, ironically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They were going to pass another car. There was 2 cars coming. And in those areas, when those roads are narrow, like I mentioned, narrow road again, kind of weird.
Yeah.
You pull over on the side to let the other person go by. And you'll wave like it's a small town, you know? So that's what they did. They were waiting for the other car at nighttime to like whatever. And they were kind of far from each other at a far distance. And they said they were like on a decline and the other person was on a decline. So they couldn't see everything going on. But they saw movement, big black shadow movement, and then the car threw it in reverse and U-turned and drove off. And they were like, what? So they didn't see what was down there. So they kept going. They're like, what? And then the thing stood up and came just like it came at me to their car. And they threw it in reverse and they flipped around and they left. So What's really weird, so weird, they're so similar in that area. It's crazy.
Yeah, and again,
and then there was a fire too, the curve fire. That's what the History Channel found out. They called me. It was so weird, even more so. So that was like 2021. Now the History Channel is going to do this show. Mm-hmm. I told them everything. They sat with me for like, dude, they talked to me for like 24 hours, I'd say, total, to make sure they got all of these details because it's really nuanced and blah, blah, blah. She called me back after I already filmed. She was like, so we found some crazy stuff that you're going to see in the show. And I was like, okay. And she was like, and I mentioned a Ouija board, so they kind of threw that out there too. Like it's a big part of it, which I don't even know if it is. It was like, I don't even know, whatever. But she was like, besides that, did you know about the curve fire up there? And I was like, oh yeah, it was like a big deal. That was actually the year I moved up there. Okay. They shut the freeway down the day I moved up there because the whole thing was evacuated and it was bad. She was like, well, you're going to see some stuff about that because right before, and that was in 2002, there was multiple claims in multiple newspapers in your area of that exact thing you're describing being seen in the actual like burned wreckage of the fire. Multiple. Wow. And then the fire originally they thought the fire started from like a campground. They found out later that it was started due to like a devil ritual thing, worshiping thing, and they found the remnants of it allegedly. It's on the episode. It's crazy.
Holy smokes. So that's just great. That's just great. I talk about witchcraft is bad, y'all. Playing with demons is bad. They'll go home with you if you want to play with them on that. So that's amazing. That is amazing on that story right there. And so 8.5. Wow.
And we had done a Ouija board. I don't know if it was right before or right after. I cannot confirm nor deny. I don't remember anymore. But we had. And it was dumb. And I'll never do it again. Don't do it. Anyone listening, don't do it. It's not worth it. I'm telling you, they're evil. They're awful. And we did it that night because I'm a Beatles fan. I wanted to talk to John Lennon, who we didn't know. I had no idea. I had no clue. And that night it was me and
at least you're honest girls. About it.
I'm real. And then they showed it in the show. The 2 girls and myself, we were at a birthday party and we did it together. And I believe it was right before, but it was moving really, really aggressive. And they were not moving it. We were getting really scared. Those girls did not mess like that. Like we didn't play games like that. The fear was really obvious. And I had mentioned that to even Dan. And so when they heard that, they asked me about it quite a bit, which understandably, I don't know if it was related. I do believe that given the circumstances of the fire and then later what happened with me and all of us. And it was during Christmas time, and SWs don't really like that stuff. It just felt very nuancedly related, I guess. I'm not sure for sure if that is what was related, but it did feel demonic. I don't know.
No, I would say trust your gut on that. I really would. Like, I've talked to people before, and people have sent me stories. I get a lot of submissions to me, right? And they just want to share their story to me, but they don't want to share their story, right? That's just like, hey, look, this happened to me, but I don't want to, do, anything. Mm-hmm. But when you look at the whole body of your work and the whole body of the circumstances that went through it, right? And then there's no such thing as in my opinion, when it comes to these cryptids, this spirituality aspect of it. I get a lot of Bigfoot researchers disagree with me, right? That they think it's an undiscovered, these animals are just undiscovered, like your mom, like it was a bear with mange. Okay, first of all, we're in California. All right, so we're in California. California state flag does have a grizzly bear on it, right? But they've been extinct, extinct for like a long time. So I don't know if there's any regular black bears out there, but you will never find an 8.5 foot tall black bear standing upright, like, about 6 feet tall, maybe 6'5" or something like that.
They can hover for a second on their feet, but they're not going to walk towards you like a person either. Yeah, no, so definitely not, right? And so then when you start lining out possibilities, first of all, I love getting. I grew up in Appalachian Mountains, up in upper East Tennessee back in the day, right? And I love getting stories, and I go hiking frequently, right? I used to go into the Shenandoah all the time. I love getting advice about mountains from people who live. The blue trail at your local park, that's not the mountains, y'all. So if you've never had to do what she talked about, where you're going down a road and half of you have to get off the road to come through, or it's worse when it's raining and it's muddy, it's not the woods, man. You know what I'm saying? That's not the woods, right? Preach. Yeah, it's not the woods, right? So, and I know exactly what you were talking about too. I was talking about it a couple episode ago, like, especially in like December, when the leaves lose their, trees lose their leaves a little bit, and that moon is so bright and it's cold, you can hear and see so clearly, like especially when there's no light pollution, right? When you're out there, right? That moon just illuminates so much, right? So you would have known if it was a bear, like you would have known it was a bear. And the way that, again, also too, is that, mountain girls, mountain kids like us, when you grow up, you understand instantly what you can type of register, right? And so the fact that it didn't register to you instantly tells you that there's something wrong with it. I try to explain it, right? If you're in the woods a lot, the loudest thing you'll normally hear in the woods is a squirrel just barreling through the leaves at like 1,000 miles an hour, right? Or a black darter snake shooting out. If something's 8.5 feet tall, that's not normal. This shouldn't be here. Like, this is not normal, right? So yeah, trust your gut on that. And also off a different sound too. Like I told them, you could tell it was moving so fast, and we didn't have like leaves there, right? We had rocks and like sand, but I could hear that it had a significant size, but it seemed almost weightless. But you could hear pebbles falling like down while it was crawling up the side of it. So I mean, that's why at first I was like, "Oh, mountain lion," but then when I saw. But I knew, I think I was lying to myself at first. Like, I was like, mountain lion. And then when I felt it more and I saw its arm come up, I was like, oh, that's not mountain lion, dude. No
shot too. Yeah. And the whole, when you're part of your story where you're talking about, I call it the fear aura that these things put out. Like there's they radiate. And I try to explain this to people as well about how there's a scientific backup of that thing you felt. Your body's mostly made up of water. And there's a Japanese scientist who took, water samples and he put different types of music to it. And based on what the sound resonance was of the sound, it formed the shapes, right? So your body being sensitive to this type of things is a real phenomenon. Most people will never, you'll just never get some people to believe just period, right? I have and some of those guys are actually my friends, right? I'd have to throw a dead Bigfoot on a couple of my guy friends to get them to believe it, but they believe in reptilian aliens and everything else like that, just off the charts, right? I'm like, what are y'all doing? It's like, no, this is real. This is real, right? Like, this is real, right? I'm like, so yeah, but that's not real. Like, no, that's not real. That's totally real. But this right here is real. Like, we did an episode on the Superstition Mountains, right? And
I'm right by Superstition Mountains. It's so scary.
Are you really? Are you there? That's where you're at?
Yes, literally right by them.
Oh, yes. I'm scared to tell you this story then, man. Like, so like you should go. I did this episode about the Superstition Mountains that I did, right? Specifically about this this girl. I'll give a little spoiler here. Not to make your life any more terrifying, right? So this she wasn't a girl, she was a woman. This woman was hiking in the Superstition Mountain, and she was collecting some type of quartz rocks or something like that, right? Like she was collecting. And according to her, that up in those mountains, she was abducted by reptilian aliens, and they tried to mate with her and everything else like that. And she woke up, she just came back, and she was driving in her car. And if you want to have a fun rabbit hole to go down, go and look at the claims. This is weird. I didn't mean to take this episode here. I'm going to just steer it right back to you in a second.
No,
but go,
please, no. We can talk about this all day long. I don't even care.
Yeah,
continue.
Go and look at the claims of women mating with these reptile beings, right? That they're just, and it's like this doesn't get a lot of traction, right? And I'm like, all right. So anyways, the superstition. So hey, look, you ever heard the term "out of the frying pan into the fire"? It's like, are you trying? Is that your motto? Is that tattooed on your back somewhere? Like,
yeah. You know what's really funny? My novel that I'm writing is about a horse girl, and she lives in Sedona, and I almost put it in Superstition Mountains. I'm not even kidding.
Yeah.
I'm not. I live in Phoenix, and
Yeah.
it is a known thing up there. It is so energized up there. But she falls in love with an alien. They get abducted to a planet.
Hey.
So crazy. I was like, what? They're not reptiles. They're a reptile species, but not the main one, but still very closely related. That is so weird.
Yeah,
Superstition
it's weird.
Mountains is a portal. That is what I literally was just there. I should have
100%.
filmed it, but we just went on a ghost tour up there, and there's a vibe for sure. I went up there twice because somebody I spoke with recently, right before the History Channel show came out, I talked about what I saw. And they were like, so the things that are up in Superstition Mountains. And I was like, what do you mean? You're like, oh, dude, there are SWs or whatever that was up there like crazy. You'll see them all the time, like shadow things. But I don't know if the shadow things are the same thing, if you know what I mean. But I went up there, and it's such a vibe. It's so creepy up there. People totally have multiple times up there have told me they felt followed, they felt watched, they felt like somebody was stalking them and rushing them and stuff. They were followed by lights they thought they were abducted. Like, it is so crazy up there.
No, it's nuts. So it's the superstition. Don't ever go up there alone. You gotta do me that favor, right? Don't ever go.
I went up there alone the first time, and I'm so glad I made it. Like, I'm never gonna do that again.
Never go up there alone, right? So the Superstition Mountains, man, that's a whole nother. They're charged. So people talk about Mount Shasta being a lightning rod for strangeness out in California, but the Superstition Mountains, if you look at the per capita when you look at I made up a word to describe this stuff called fiduciary, right? Like, you look at all the fiduciary that's going up on this mountain. They have it all, man. Skinwalkers, people just heads go missing, searching for Bobby Jones gold or whatever that gold.
It's crazy up there.
The Lost Dutchman's gold. I actually think when I did the orbs, I actually think that I went down to Costa Rica to do an orb investigation earlier in this year, and the orb phenomenon, again, like what I was talking about, the people, some of the Bigfoot researchers that I've come in contact with, they call it the woohoo, and they refuse to actually, at all look into it. But I have a saying on here about ignore Native American warnings, folklore at your own peril. Like, if the Cherokee or Choctaw say, hey, don't go up on Death Mountain after 2:00 or you'll die, and you go up there at 3, well, don't be surprised if you die, because they literally told you not to go up there after 2, right? Literally. But there's just so much of this stuff that's deep, steep, and ingrained into your story. I'm chuckling, but like my hair is on the back of my neck. We're standing up, right? Because I'm visualizing you like I'm on that road, like, yeah, Jingle bells. And all of a sudden, like this thing starts coming up out the top of the woods. Man, Taylor, wow, you got to come back. You got to come back. I want to bring you on for more shows, some more topics down the road, right? If you'd like to come back on that. Man, yes. So especially outside the Superstition Mountains, I'm gonna tell my buddy about that, man. He's not gonna believe it, man, because he wants to go there, right? The Superstition Mountains.
Yeah, please. Yeah. I would love to go investigate up there, just not alone. That is scary.
Oh yeah, no, for real. We got to go up there. We got to take a slow person with us too, in case we got to book out, man. Be like, all right, Cheryl, you're good. He's back there. Yeah, you're all right. Don't give up. You got this. While we were down the mountain. So Taylor, tell everybody where they can find you. Tell everybody about your books and stuff like that.
So my Instagram is a lot more author based, but I talk about my cryptid encounter quite a bit just because they're all very related. And my novel, the first draft is done. I'm finishing the second draft, and then after I do plan to start like querying it out. It's a sci-fi fantasy novel, so it's not like a memoir by any means, but it is very, very strongly influenced by like what happened. And like not all of the bad guys, but like the bad guys are like what I saw basically. So I'm really excited about that. And that's like, I think I'll be in a lot more of the cryptid community stuff here moving forward, because I do see so many people are like, oh my gosh, I want to read your book, like in the cryptid side. Yeah, right. Cool. My Instagram is I found my tribe. So my Instagram is t.n, I believe, Thompson, I guess, or author or something. I don't know. I'll give you my handles. I don't remember what it is, and I'm terrible at that stuff.
No worries. So by the time this episode's dropped, guys, I'll be following her on on the socials that she has. And as you know, I'm kind of a snob. I don't follow that many people, right? Because I like to big time it like that. But I'm gonna be following her for sure. You can go to my Instagram, TikTok, or whatever. Click on that. Go over there. Go give her a follow. When your book comes out, we'll give it a shout out. We'll bring you back on the show and get that going. So Taylor, I want to thank you so much for hanging out with us today. And you know what? It's been a pleasure, and I cannot wait to do it again. So.
Yes, you too. Thank you so much for all your time and your platform. You're wonderful.
Oh no, man! Like no, you're doing me a favor, right? Like so usually it's one of my ugly co-hosts on here just sitting over here looking like a dog, right? So you're gonna freak some guys out when they say this. Anyway, so everybody, you know how we do around here. I'm just joking. Sasquatch Steve Taylor is a pretty good looking guy anyway. So look. So anyways, guys, you know how we do around this time. My name's Joseph. This is EnigmaCast. This is my show, The Ancient Enigma Files. People tell me I should ask for subscribes more. I don't really do it. So if you want to subscribe, give a subscribe, give a thumbs up. If you didn't like it and you want to be a loser, give us a thumbs down. But just have the cojones to get in the chat and tell me why, so I can say, yeah, you're probably right, or I'm going to dunk on you. But anyway, so guys, that's all we got going on tonight. We'll be back next week with a brand new episode. And Taylor, thank you again. And so you know how we do around here, nerds. That's all you guys get for $1. And we're out.
Subscribe now and turn on notifications to join us on this extraordinary journey into the unknown.